Hello, this is Erik. This is July the 4th, 2011. For our next part of the DID rant, we will be discussing hospitalization and schools that are kind of like hospitals. Uh, this video will be about our first hospital experience. It was in the summer of '08, I believe, and school had literally just let out, and Kimberly, Brittany's mother, had been discussing going to, taking us in for an evaluation at Children's Hospital, and, she never really did it. So I will admit it was my fault. I wrote her a note of mockery, if you will, saying something along the lines of, "School is out, what are you going to do?" And she took us in for an evaluation. And I will let Webber talk about the evaluation briefly because he was out for most of that. Okay, hello. So we went in there, and, a nurse asked us questions. And I feel it was kind of my fault that we ended up in the hospital as well. Because she asked, "Do you see or hear things that aren't there?" And I said, "Well, people think I do, but I know they're there," which is probably a mistake. That and the fact Kimberly kind of warped the truth around, as she often does, and said something about, "I brutally attacked her," which I didn't. She was being a pain in the ass, and she struck out at me, and I was defending myself. So after that, she said, "Well, I want you to go sit and wait in this room, and this therapist will speak to your mother, and then she'll speak to you." And I think it was rather funny, because we were in there for about 4, 5, 6 hours, waiting, just like, how fucking long does it take to talk to Kimberly? And then the woman finally comes in, and I'm out and I speak to her a little bit, and we only speak for about 5 minutes before she goes, "Okay, well, I've decided that we're going to leave you here for basically 2 days. And I'm like, okay, that's really not fair. Get Kimberly's side of the story, hardly get ours, and ask for us to be evaluated. I will let Hobbes out briefly to talk about our first evening there. Hello, this is Hobbes. So they let me out to sleep because I can sleep through a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm a tiger. I'm really lazy. But I couldn't sleep. The bed was a rock, basically. And it was under the air conditioning. The air conditioning was on the ceiling, and where you put your head, blasted with cold air. And that was miserable. So I just paced. And eventually I fell asleep when they came in at 5 in the morning for a blood draw. And now I'm going to let Kay out again to talk about that. Hello. So, Hobbes has somebody knock on my door and yell, "Kay, blood test." And I was asleep. It was one of those rare occasions I do sleep, and I came out of my room and did the blood test. And it was so funny because one of the girls asked me the date, and I told them. And she said, "That's how they say it in Europe. Did you know that?" And I was just thinking, of course, you idiot. I grew up in Europe. I'm French, you buffoon. But anyway, other than the horrible food and the horrible bed, it was not too bad. And I will let Webber out to explain this. Basically, our hospital therapist, accepted us. She asked all of our names, ages, blah blah blah, and she even asked me to sing, which I never got around to doing, but I sang. And what's funny about this particular hospital visit is, we were very reluctant to go into this, and we were perfectly fine, which you'll see the irony when we do our next video. But it was there at the hospital I actually learned I could play volleyball. Imagine that, the Phantom of the Opera can play volleyball. Um, but anyway, that is this rant.